Welcome to this week's Future Toolbox podcast. We explore the Z to A of life skills, where each letter stands for a topic and essential tool to help you get ahead in life. Meet Jules and Mark, creators of the multi-award-winning Future Toolbox, and enjoy their straightforward approach to creating growth mindsets that help people turn their dreams into realities. Whether you're a teen in education, a parent, a teacher, or part of a community group, start creating positive habits from today.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest Z to A podcast with myself, Mark, and Jules from the multi-award winning Future Toolbox.
Hello and welcome.
Now this is where we pick a letter and a topic to discuss how you can use our tools to improve your own personal development and life. And we have a big letter this week, don't we?
Oh, it's huge.
Massive letter.
We have chosen the letter M for milestones, and there is a really important reason why we've done that. You are listening, ladies and gentlemen, and children across the world, to the Future Toolbox's 100th podcast.
Wow! Yay!
Our 100th ever podcast. So this is really exciting for us. I don't think we actually sat down and said we want to create 100, but I do remember creating the first one and being so nervous.
Yeah, we were, weren't we? Listening back to it, actually we should go back and listen to podcast one and think...
We'll do that after we've
that
finished
like?
recording this. Let's do that. Yes.
Yeah, so everybody needs to go back and listen to podcast one and then listen to all of them to see how we've improved.
Hopefully we've improved. But yes, milestones are something that are in everybody's lives from the minute you're born right through all of your life. And the definition of milestone is it's an important event in the development or history of something or in someone's lives. So they are key.
The actual history of a milestone came from back in the day, before we had road signs. There was a great big stone at the side of the road and it would say how far it was to a particular town or city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they were hand carved out and everything. So the definition of milestone has obviously changed over the years. We use it to celebrate really, really big events or aim for things. But it also links nicely into the last episode of the podcast we did, which was about self-discipline and staying on track towards achieving your goals. And milestones are really, really big, important parts of your goals because they can be milestones along the way, a little bit like your journey to that city or that town, or the milestone could be the goal itself. And when you've achieved that, then that's a big part to celebrate. So this being our 100th podcast is a big milestone. It almost has hand carved into it, Future Toolbox, Z to A of Life, podcast, 100 episodes.
100th episode, amazing. Now there are different types of achievement milestones. So for example, you could have personal milestones, and these are related to your own personal growth, such as overcoming the fear of something.
Yeah. Yeah, we overcame a fear, didn't we, in the early days of that?
Overcoming the fear of recording podcasts.
Could also be fitness related or maybe something, a personal best in a hobby. I've hit personal bests in my running, you've hit personal bests in your running, but it's not just about running, it's about being our personal best, isn't it?
Yeah, and it could be a hobby and something that you've really wanted to do. So, for example, I love painting and creating things, and I've massively developed that over the last few years. Plus, alongside always wanting to drum and play in a band, and it's now happening. It's wonderful. But there are academic milestones as well.
Yeah, of course. So it could be passing your exam, complete a particular qualification. It could also be the process of going up to your exam. So at the moment we have lots of students who are revising for GCSEs, for A-levels, for graduations or whatever in mainstream education. And one thing that we've always advised students to do throughout the Future Toolbox and Smart in Your Study is tracking blocks of revision. So it could be how many hours or how many minutes you've spent on a subject, or it could even be the new things that you've learned along the way. So I need to learn this particular thing. This is really difficult. Once you've learned it, you've ticked it off and you've tracked it. But what about professional milestones?
Yeah, these are kind of related to maybe your career advancements. You could be working towards a promotion. For example, I know one of our sons who's in the army, it's quite tracked out what the promotion is, and he works well with his managers and bosses to track his career, his promotion, and where he wants to be at the point where he actually leaves the army. But it could be other things as completing projects that you're working on, or even achieving performance targets.
This is also something that could be related to setting up your own business, thinking about the milestones you put in place. So we had a number of milestones in our business, our first client. We also have our network marketing business with Utility Warehouse, and I remember getting to 100 customers that. So that was a big track, wasn't it? Because we got a nice little bonus, and there was steps on the ladder that you could work toward. We also got our mini, didn't we? And we needed certain milestones.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
But also we wanted to win some awards, or it was nice to be able to enter into some awards, and amazingly have won some fantastic awards over the years.
Yeah, that's a real proud moment where you can celebrate achievements as well. And again, they go into life milestones, don't they? So that is something that slips into a personal milestone as well as a business one.
Yeah, and I think as well, we've been talking over the last few weeks about the Future Toolbox and what it is that we want to continue with and maybe diversify. So for us, this is another milestone that we're about to develop, aren't we? The other type of achievement or milestone is called developmental milestones. And this can be throughout all of your life, but particularly relevant from when you're first born to having your first smile, learning to crawl and then walk and talk.
Let's face it, we're always developing as adults, aren't we? Yeah, I guess that's amazing milestones in life where you take your first steps. You also develop your social skills, your language skills, your emotional skills, your cognitive skills. So there's a lot of things that you track over that time, but you do this without actually planning it. It just sort of happens really, doesn't it, as you grow?
It does. But what you do have as you're developing is you almost have like a little network of people that are helping you, which obviously includes your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, maybe nieces, nephews, cousins. You've got this little network of people and everybody's cheering you on to help you make that journey from being firstborn right up until adulthood. So developmental milestones, they're huge. And there's certainly things to celebrate. And people love saying, oh, look at my child. They're now starting secondary school or they've done really well in their GCSEs. You know, it's amazing, that journey from birth to adulthood.
So yeah, milestones are really important along the journey. And as we mentioned earlier, it's a little bit like making that journey from a place to a town or a city and counting down those mile markers as you're going along. I remember I used to do that when we first had a sat-nav. You would be going towards a journey and counting down those miles were really, really key. It's like, oh, I've only got so far to go. I've got less than an hour now. It's getting closer to my destination. It was really exciting, especially if you're coming home as well after a long, busy day.
Actually, I do remember our very first sat-nav. It wasn't very good, was it?
No, it wasn't.
We actually ended up lost more times than we had before we had the sat-nav.
Yeah, we had to have different milestones on that one. It's like, I counted it down. Oh, this is not the right place.
Yes.
But these milestones are really, really key in your life. And they're really good ways of tracking your progress and obviously keeping on track with your self-discipline, as we mentioned earlier on. So how do we do that? Well, it might be that you have a big goal that you want to achieve, but you need to break it down into smaller goals. I've got an example of a friend of ours quite recently swam his longest swim, and he's training for an event which is in, I think, about 3 weeks' time as we're recording this podcast. And his longest swim was part of that self-discipline training routine, because if he doesn't go out and do that, then he's not going to perform as well on the day. He's not going to be as comfortable on the day. And I can liken this to my running. When I've trained for my very first half marathon, I followed a training plan.
I remember.
Yeah, and it was all mile based.
Yeah.
So it's like, today you need to go out and run 6 miles. And I remember doing 6 miles and ticking it off the list. Wow. I remember the first time I got to 10 miles. 10 miles was a big achievement.
Huge milestone.
Yeah, it seemed bigger than 9 miles. And then obviously I achieved that first half marathon and then went on to join the 100 Half Marathon Club. And again, when I achieved that day, I remember all my friends from the running club, Northampton Row Runners, were there. They really, really celebrated that. And on the day before, I actually did my 350th park run as well, which again, it just felt really, really special to hit those targets. But the milestones along the way were the real key things. So obviously 100 half marathons is big, but getting to 50 was big as well.
Yes.
And counting them down after 92, after 93, having a tracking chart was really, really cool on that.
I think as well, the milestones within your goals almost are bigger than the actual achievement, because you can see yourself getting closer and closer to the end goal, and the way that that makes you feel is amazing, because it just lifts your spirits. It keeps you mentally focused and really wanting to achieve that end one. So the milestones for me are almost more important than the actual achievement, because you can see yourself getting closer and closer, and it just does wonders for your mental health.
Yeah, it absolutely does. But there's also different types of milestones. So a milestone doesn't have to be working towards an end goal. For example, at the moment, we're both learning Spanish and we use an app called Duolingo. Now, I don't think there's going to be a day where we'll go, right, we've learned Spanish now, that's it, let's stop.
It would be nice.
Because you're going to carry on learning that. It's like we still learn things about the English language now. So you never stop and okay, I'm fluent in English, I don't need to learn anymore.
Do you know, it's really true what you just said. One of the things that I really enjoy doing now is every day I will do some crosswords.
Yes.
I have books, and sometimes within the clue, they give me a clue and a word, and I think, oh, I've never come across that word before. So I'm still learning words within my own language, let alone another language. And it's funny you should bring Duolingo into it, because I remember starting it before we came out here to Lanzarote. And guys, I'll hold my hand up. I gave up, and I don't know why I gave up. I think I got a little bit frustrated with the whole app and didn't feel that I was progressing how I wanted to do it. However, I am conscious that I really do want to learn to speak Spanish. So I've picked it back up and I'm really enjoying it now, because I feel that I'm doing it because I really want to, whereas before I felt a bit pressured that I had to do it.
But also, that's a lot of lessons to learn there, because if you're not progressing with something, the only way to guarantee that you're not going to progress any further is to stop, isn't it? So it's really great that you picked that back up again. Also, it's about changing the goal sometimes. So your goal has now been put back because you stopped doing it. But all of a sudden you've realised, oh wow, I can remember this from maybe a year or so ago, last time I was on Duolingo. But the other key thing about the goal and the example of Duolingo is, as I say, we're not working towards an end goal where we're going to stop and celebrate and say, yes, this is the day we can speak Spanish. We're doing a daily tracking goal. So my streak is over 1,000 now. I've done over 1,000 days on Duolingo. And if I stop that and break that streak, I'll be gutted.
Oh, you
because
will.
I'll go back to zero again. So my goal is to keep that streak going. It celebrated a little bit when I got to day 1,000 and said, "Hey, share this all over social media." I didn't, but I felt really good that I knew that I've progressed from day one, and what I've learned in that time has been phenomenal. But I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But it's a real good way of tracking it, to say, okay, let's do a little bit every single day.
And tracking and celebrating milestones are really good to keep you motivated, and there's various different ways that you can do it. One of them is journaling. We're big fans of journaling anyway, but keeping a dedicated journal will allow you to document your progress, but also you can write down your thoughts, whether you had a good day, whether it didn't go quite so well, also what your feelings along the way. It's good to see that and remember how good it felt to achieve something, but how good it felt to have a knockback but still keep going. So journaling, I think, is one of great ways of tracking and celebrating your milestones.
And of course, we just mentioned Duolingo, which is an app. And apps are fantastic for tracking your milestones and staying on track. They could be something which counts something, or they could be something where you log something. But I mean, you have an app for everything these days, don't you?
Yeah.
You could even go back and be a bit old-fashioned and do spreadsheets.
Yes, but then I know lots of people who love spreadsheets, and as soon as you start deciding that you want to do something, there's always somebody that thinks, oh, I'll put it on a spreadsheet. They're brilliant. And it's for those who prefer that sort of more hands-on approach. I think with a spreadsheet and perhaps with a journal, you're more in control, whereas the app controls it a little bit for you. Yeah.
I'm a spreadsheet guy. I love a good spreadsheet and my running stats.
But yeah, and you can customise your spreadsheet to be exactly what you want it to be. So there's always a place for a spreadsheet.
Another example is performance reviews. Now, when I work full-time, and when you work full-time, you used to have performance reviews where your manager would say, this is how you're doing. They were known as appraisals. And sometimes they were a little bit scary, and sometimes they were really, really good. You get some really great feedback or maybe some improvements. Yeah, these are real key to you moving forward, is to track and review your own performance, or get somebody to track and review your performance for you. For example, in business, we look at the Future Toolbox. How's that working? What do we need to change? You mentioned earlier that we're in a process of looking at some changes going forward, because there's some stuff that isn't working and there's some stuff that is working really, really well. And it's the definition of madness, doing the things that don't work very well and expecting them to work well or get different results or whatever. So we're always looking at new ideas, but we're also looking at old ideas. And that's a good way of moving yourself forward. You're doing a little appraisal. You can do this on loads of things. You could do it on your own health and think, okay, maybe I'm feeling a bit sluggish. Why am I feeling sluggish? Let's look at ways to give myself more energy. Let's look at my sleep patterns. Why am I not sleeping very well through the night? You could do a journal or keep a spreadsheet if you want, or maybe even use an app on sleep. There's lots of ways where you can look at these key factors in order to your own self-development.
And also, and we mentioned this in the last one, in terms of self-discipline and working towards what you want to achieve, don't forget to look at how to overcome any challenges that might be along the way. Because you forget to do that. We all think about, oh, how am I going to celebrate this? And, oh, think about the goal and all the rest of it. You will come across challenges. There will be obstacles. They could be big ones or they could be little ones. But if there's something that you're trying to achieve, have a little look about what might get in your way to achieving it and how you're going to deal with those, and maybe log that down so that if that does happen, I'm not saying it will, but if it does, you can think, oh, I've got a backup plan for that.
I can give a good example of that with the Duolingo app. I got to a stage where there was one bit I could not get past, one lesson. It didn't matter how much I read it, it doesn't matter what I tried, I kept losing all my lives on it, and it's like I could have given up at that point. So what I did is I went backwards in time, done a few of the older lessons, got my confidence back up, looked at it again with a fresh pair of eyes. It's like, right, I've got this now.
Yeah,
and I don't know what it was and why it clicked into my mind. So it does work, that.
It does. And it's all about that positive mindset, obviously, that we talk a lot about throughout all of our work. But if you're having some negativity around what you're trying to achieve, then try and look at ways of how you can turn that round. And it might be that you need to go and seek support and talk to somebody else about it. And they might be able to say, do you know what? I went through that. This is what I did. And you can think, let me try that. So there's lots of ways that you can look at identifying your obstacles and putting some strategies in place should you come across them.
So just before we finish, let's think about popular milestones. Now, we're surrounded by these every single day. There was that eat 5 pieces of fruit and veg or drink 8 glasses of water. But somebody's told us that at some point in our life, and we think we must do it. And some of us do and some of us don't. But what about the 10,000 steps? Where did 10,000 steps come from?
I don't know, but it just took off. And everybody now has a watch and they're like, I've got to keep going. I've got to get to my 10,000 steps. Yeah.
You can see the excitement, can't you? When people, I've done my steps today.
Yeah, absolutely. We know people here, 10,000 steps is nothing. They want to do 20, 30,000 and they do it day in, day out. And it's amazing and they stick to it.
And that's the thing. And the beauty of it is your own goals, isn't it? But we also have birthdays, anniversaries.
Your first birthday, your child's first birthday.
That's one you never remember yourself, is it? But then you have your 16th, your 18th. Your 18th's really exciting because I'm an adult now. There was the 21st, the 40th, all those sort of things.
Yeah.
If you haven't got to the 40th yet, well, look forward to that one.
So then they start getting bigger numbers and it gets a bit scary. You don't want those milestone birthdays.
Nah, they're fine.
But you do, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, there's all sorts of different things. Some milestones, like we said, the first times you actually do anything. So, for example, remember your first job.
When the first time you got paid as well.
Yeah, your first pay packet. I remember mine. It was actually cash.
Oh, wow. I felt like a millionaire when I first got paid. And I remember it was £429.
Oh my gosh. No, mine was about, I think it was £45 in cash in a little brown pay packet. And the lady used to come round and you couldn't wait. I think it was either at Thursday afternoon at work or Friday, I can't remember, but she'd come round with a little box and hand out your salary.
Yeah, that's exciting. First paycheck, first holiday, first time you went on a plane.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
First kiss.
I remember the first time I was asked for a kiss from a young chap that I was allegedly going out with. His name was Douglas. I won't say his surname in case he's listening, but I said no and ran away because I was too scared.
Oh. And there's so many other things. You have time you pass your driving test, you get your first car, maybe you get your first home as well. And there's lots of people, teenagers will be listening to this thinking, oh wow, I haven't got my first home yet.
I know.
I haven't passed my driving test yet. Maybe I haven't had my first kiss.
Yes. So life can be really exciting. And it's also exciting to reminisce and go back over some of those first things that you did because you forget what that feeling's like. But anybody listening to this, if there's something that you haven't done yet that you want to do, plan it because that'll be the first time that you do it.
That's A really good bit of advice, isn't it? So we're going to go back and listen to episode 1 of podcast.
Yes.
Z2A of Life to see what it sounds like. We really need to do that. And you can do the same, and you can find loads of tools on our website, which is futuretoolbox.co.uk. We're also on social media. You can go to Facebook, Instagram or TikTok. We also have a YouTube channel with loads of videos and resources on there. And you can find us on LinkedIn because we are...
everywhere.
We are absolutely everywhere, of course. And we look forward to catching you in the next episode, which will be number 101.
Yes. So we'll look forward to you joining us and following us to our next big milestone.
Yeah, let's get to 200. Yay! See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Z2A of Life Skills with Jules and Mark of the Future Toolbox. Don't forget to head over to their website, which is futuretoolbox.co.uk, where you can find lots of free resources, plus a host of books in the store, as well as subscribing to the membership site. Follow Future Toolbox Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Future Toolbox, and subscribe to their YouTube channel too.